Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Asmadakena Manasa Bhagavan Sattvathāmpati Śrotavya-Kṛtiyāvyasya Deya Puja Shatala. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada. Śrīla Prabhupada ki. If realization of the Absolute Truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above mentioned castes and orders of life, the four processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering and worshipping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagement in these four different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time if he is glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspaper. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda, by false glorification of an unqualified person, cannot bring about any good either for the particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadasya sloka of the Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness. So this verse is very important, and it'd be nice. How many of you have this verse memorized? I'm sure Dhruvi has it. Has anyone else memorized this verse? Actually, all of you should try to memorize this verse, because this verse contains all the elements you need to know how to become Kṛṣna conscious. Devotees often try to memorize shlokas. Of course, most of you are household devotees living at home. But brahmacharis often try to do that, or those who live in a temple. It would be nice if all of you also try to do that. And this is one of the very important verses of the Bhagavatam that explains how we can make spiritual advancement. This verse is from the second chapter, Divinity and Divine Service, and Prabhupada has lectured very extensively on the important verses from this chapter. In fact, almost every verse in this chapter is so significant that we should memorize it, or at least know the translation. But this verse specifically is very important because it contains many important points that we should meditate upon if we wish to make spiritual advancement. So, Sutta Goswami, speaker of the verse, as you know, the Bhagavatam was spoken on different occasions. Shukadeva Goswami recited it to Parikshit Maharaj. And Sutta Goswami spoke the Bhagavatam to the sages in Namasharanya. Sutta Goswami was a Shruti Dhara. Shruti Dhara means one who can memorize everything just by hearing once. And just by hearing the Bhagavatam once, he memorized the entire Bhagavatam. Unbelievable, isn't it? And he recited this to the sages in Namaśrāṇya who were discussing how people in Kali Yuga could be saved. So Sutta Goswami is stating over here that with one pointed attention, tasmat ekena. Tasmat means therefore, ekena means by one. So with single pointed attention, in other words, it doesn't matter which varna or ashrama you belong to. In the previous verse, Sutta Goswami has stated, it doesn't matter which caste or order of life you belong to. Our real business is to serve Krishna. That is our real business. Some of us may be doctors, lawyers, housewives, students, but actually, even though we have different professional occupations, even though we may belong to different varnas, our real business is, what's our real business? To glorify Krishna, to serve Krishna. That is our real business. So we all have the same business. Doesn't matter what our background is, it doesn't matter what our present status is. You may be a sannyasi or a brahmachari or a grihastha, that doesn't matter. We can't forget the fact our real business is to serve Krishna and to make spiritual advancement. That should be our real focus. But to make spiritual advancement, we naturally have to follow a certain path. You can't just do anything whimsically and still hope to make spiritual advancement. So over here, Sutta Goswami is emphasizing that with one pointed attention, we should not be multi-focused. You know, they have these multifocal cameras. We should not be multi-focused. I want spiritual life, I want material life, I want this, I want this, I want this. We should be single-pointed. That means, whatever we do, we should do it with the intention that we can make spiritual advancement. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described to Sanatana Goswami the process of Sharanagati. Sharanagati means to surrender, to take shelter. In Vancouver, Canada, we have a farm. We started about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. It's called Sharanagati. So whenever I go there, I remind the residents there that your farm is called Sharanagati. So all of you should mold your life in such a way they can achieve that goal. So Lord Chaitanya was describing to Sanatana Goswami the process of Sharanagati, and on this point, he gave us 6 valuable instructions. The first thing he said was, accept everything favorable for spiritual advancement, and 2, reject everything unfavorable for spiritual advancement. So that should be the guide, the broad guideline for every devotee. Doesn't matter what the occupation is, that what is favorable for spiritual advancement, we accept, and what is unfavorable for spiritual advancement, we reject. Just like these days, people are very health conscious. So because they're health conscious, they tend to accept what is good for health, isn't it? And if something is bad for health, you take that? You don't take it. Why do people think bottled water over tap water costs money, but still they feel it's safer, so they take bottled water over tap water. So similarly, we should constantly be examining, is this activity, is this association, is this endeavor conducive or detrimental for spiritual advancement? So, what should one do? Constantly hear about and glorify. We should constantly hear and glorify what? About the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tasmat ekena menasa bhagwan sarvatam pati. So, our lives will be so molded, we can hear and glorify about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, hear and glorify, what do we hear and glorify? His holy names. Now, Rupa Goswami has given us many wonderful books. One of them is a book called Sri 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜, which actually only has 11 verses, small book. And each of these verses has a very elaborate purport by Prabhupada. And each of these verses is very significant. Narottam Das Thakur in one of his prayers says, Rupa Raghunatha Pade 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜 𝐾𝐲𝐻𝐼𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜 ∞ When will that auspicious day come when I will be able to read the books left behind by whom? By Rupa Goswami. So it's a privilege to study his books. So in Sri 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜, which Prabhupada presented under the title of Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami in the 7th verse speaks as follows. He says that the holy name, character, pastimes of the Lord are sweet like sugar candy. Sugar candy is sweet, isn't it? And by and large, almost everyone loves sweets. Is there any culture in the world where people don't eat sweets? I had Vivida say yesterday, after eating prasad, there was no sweet there. That's why. So diabetes has become such a major disease today. People love sweets. Diabetes now has reached an international level of recognition. The United Nations recently declared Diabetes Day. When the disease reaches a certain level, then the United Nations recognizes that as a major international threat. So diabetes has achieved that status now. So everyone loves sweets. So Rupa Goswami says, the holy name is sweet like sugar candy. The pastime of the Lord is sweet like sugar candy. The character of the Lord is sweet like sugar candy. So what does this imply? This implies, since the holy name is so sweet, we should be attracted to the holy name all the time. Does that make sense? The holy name is sweet, so we should be attracted to the holy name all the time, isn't it? And over here too, it is said Nityada. Nityada means constantly. Śrīla Goswami is saying, we should constantly hear and glorify the holy names of the Lord. And Rupa Goswami says that it's sweet like sugar candy. But unfortunately, even though the holy name is sweet like sugar candy, we're not attracted to the holy name. Is that right or wrong? Are we attracted to the holy name?
Yes.
By and large, Rupa Goswami says, even though the holy name is sweet like sugar candy, he says, we are not attracted to the holy name. Why? Because of the disease of avidya. Because our tongue is affected by this disease of avidya or ignorance. Therefore, even though the holy name is all sweet, we are not attracted to the holy name. So, this avidya is reflected through the agencies of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad, Matsarya, which are also identified as anartha. Anartha means that which is unnecessary, that which is not required. So because of the influence of these anarthas, though the holy name is all sweet, we're not attracted to the holy name. We're chanting around, we fall asleep. We're hearing the Bhagavatam class, we fall asleep. Forward to getting out of that, isn't it? So the reality is, even though the holy name is sweet, we are covered by ignorance. And therefore, we are not able to follow what are the guidelines of the Lord, isn't it? So that is a problem that we have to recognize. We may be initiated, we may be Brahmin, we may be sannyasis, whatever, but that doesn't mean that I now have spontaneous attraction to the holy name. And we hear again and again the instruction in the Bhagavatam that we should chant the holy name. Chanvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. So again and again we hear the glories of that we should chant the holy name. So what is the solution? Is there a solution? Or we just lift our hands and say, I surrender, there's no solution. I can't develop any possible attraction for the holy name. What do we do? We just chant, maybe that's the solution. So, he gives the solution, Rupa Goswami. Among the sages we see that they identify the problem and they also give the solution. In mature life, they can identify the problem, but they don't necessarily have a solution. Just like if you look at the various diseases, so many diseases are identifiable. Cancer, AIDS, and so many. But if you go to the doctor and say, do you have a solution? He'll say, no, there's no solution. So in the mature life, they can identify a problem, but they don't necessarily have a solution. Or they may attempt a solution which may not necessarily come true. But in spiritual life, the sages identify the problem and give us the solution. So Rupa Goswami gives us the solution. He says, the holy name is sweet like sugar candy, but because our tongue is afflicted with the disease of avidya, we are unable to taste the sweetness of the holy name. Prabhupada used to often give us the example of somebody suffering from jaundice. If you have jaundice, and even if somebody gives you sugarcane juice, you won't be able to appreciate the sweetness. Sometimes you run a high temperature, and someone gives you a very nicely palatable meal, you won't be able to appreciate. Sometimes you get blisters in the tongue, and if you have blisters in the tongue, and if somebody gives you a nice samosa, kachori, you just won't be able to experience it. So similarly, now the holy name is sweet, because our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, touch are all full of lust, anger, greed, envy. We can't appreciate the sweetness of the holy name. So that is a fact that we are unable to appreciate the sweetness of the holy name. Many times we tell people chant, 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 and they keep saying can't. That's because they can't appreciate the value of the holy name. The reality is unfortunate that even though the holy name is the most valuable asset, the majority of the people can't appreciate the value of the most valuable asset. So, what is the solution? Rupa Goswami goes on to say that the solution is, he says, by attentively chanting the holy name. This disease will be destroyed at the root. It's just like a good surgeon. You go to a doctor with a disease. One doctor may superficially try to cure it, but not worrying whether the disease will reoccur. Another doctor could be more intelligent and say, I must cure it superficially and also the root, so the disease doesn't reoccur. Am I right? So Rupa Goswami says, this disease can be cured at the root. How? By attentive chanting of the holy name. If we attentively chant our japa, then the disease will be cured at the root. So what Rupa Goswami is conveying to us is that we not only have to chant the holy name, but we have to attentively chant the holy name. So devotees have to constantly examine whether the japa we are doing is attentive or inattentive. Just like it is said, there are 3 stages of chanting the holy name. What are the 3 stages? the offensive stage, the Namabhasa stage, and the Shuddha-nama stage. So, and when you discuss the 10 offenses, in the 10th offense has two aspects, A and B. One is to maintain a mature attachment for chanting the holy name, and the B is to be inattentive in chanting. So Rupa Goswami says, the cure to our not relishing the sweetness of the holy name is attentive chanting of the holy name. So devotees often ask this question, what do we mean by attentive chanting of the holy name? And the simple answer is that at least when you're chanting your 16 rounds of japa, let the 16 round be your major focus, and not this 16 round chanting be accompanied by other tasks at the same time. Sometimes, devotees chant while driving, or chant while cooking, or this or that. Of course, you can chant all the time. Even in this verse, it is said nityada means constantly. But at least the japa that you're going to count towards your quota of 16 minimum rounds should be done with concentration. And if you do that with concentration, then that will cleanse the heart faster. Chetu darpan. But sometimes you also hear devotees saying, well, I've been initiated for 20 years. All we need to endeavor is purify our chanting and be more attentive in the chanting. And then Rupa Goswami says, the disease will get destroyed at the root. At the root. So if the root is cured, then it will be easier to cure, easier to tame the other senses. So we should have faith in the word of Rupa Goswami, and then once again, the holy name will appear sweet. So the holy name is sweet. Please have no doubt. The passion and character of the Lord are also very, very sweet and relishable. Just see Parikshit Maharaj, he was fasting and he heard the Bhagavatam, and he was getting so much pleasure that he went on requesting Śrīla Goswami, please describe more and more, isn't it? More and more the transcendental glories of the Lord. So that position is attainable if we endeavor by the proper means. Further, it is said here, one should constantly remember and worship. So this is also very important. Remember the personality of Godhead. In the Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami has given many rules and regulations. Actually, the Nectar of Devotion is nothing but a law book. I told devotees the other day that I was at Prabhupada in Los Angeles when he released the Nectar of Devotion book. It had just arrived from Dainapan in Japan, and the whole temple room in LA was crowded. So he held up the Nectar of Devotion book and said, "This is the law book of the Krishna conscious movement. Every devotee should read that." So it contains many rules and regulations, isn't it? Sometimes people complain, in ISKCON there are too many rules and regulations. Too many. I want a movement where I'll have full freedom. As they say, you get what you pay for, isn't it? And Krishna also says, "Ye yathama prapadayante." You want a complete liberal path with no guidelines, no restrictions. Sure, go ahead, but you're not going to get an ounce of love of God. But if you want love of God, then obviously you have to conform to the rules and regulations given by the Acharyas and the Lord. So Rupa Goswami has given many rules and regulations in the Nectar of Devotion. But in the end he says that the purpose of all these rules and regulations is to come to the point that you always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. If you chant the holy name regularly, attentively, then it is possible to attain to the next stage. Prahlāda Maharaj was asked by his father, "Son, what is the best thing you learned in school today?" The father had tried to influence his son through the agency of Sandan America. Sandan America were the two sons of Shukracharya, and they were the teachers of Prahlāda. So Hiranyakashipu had instructed these two teachers, "Make my son give up his attachment to Vishnu, and he should understand that I am supreme." So the father was expecting an answer like, "Dad, you're supreme." So the father made him sit him on the lap, patting him on his head, said, "So what's the best thing you learned in school today?" And what did Prahlāda respond? He said, "Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smanam, Pada, Sevanam, Achamanam, Datam, Sakyam, Advanam." He described the ninefold process of devotional service. And as soon as his father heard the ninefold process, he was so angry, he just threw him off his lap. Anyway, the ninefold process that Prahlāda revealed was heard by him when he was in the womb of his mother, living in the ashram of Narada Muni from the great sage Dharana. So the origin of this is Narada Muni, but it's come to us through the medium of Prahlāda. So Prahlāda Maharaj, when he gave the ninefold process, he said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. So the key point to note here is that Prahlāda Maharaj didn't say Vishnu, Smaranam, Shravanam, Kirtanam. He could have said that. Vishnu, Smaranam, first remember, then hear, then glorify, isn't it? When he said Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. Why? Because there's a specific reason behind it. And the reason is, if we hear something, chant something, then you can remember that something, isn't it? If you don't chant or hear about something, you're not going to be able to remember that something. Just like in our day-to-day lives, sometimes you may meet someone, some childhood friend or someone, okay? You meet somebody and he talks about your old friendship, bang. Then you also remember that talk brings back memories, doesn't it? If you're busy talking about a mundane subject matter, there's a good chance you'll dream about that subject matter too. You talk all day, you talk about that subject matter before sleeping, you even dream that, isn't it? So, this principle is very logical, that the mind tends to gravitate towards areas that you talk and hear. If all day you're hearing just prajalpa, then your mind will also gravitate in that direction. Therefore, the result, one positive gain of attentive hearing and chanting is the ability to think about Kṛṣṇa will become easier. Your ability to think about Kṛṣṇa will develop faster. Because very often devotees say, how to think of Kṛṣṇa? It's impossible. The mind is chanchala bana Kṛṣṇa. Even Arjuna said the mind is more turbulent than the winds. How am I going to think of Kṛṣṇa? It's impossible. We say it's impossible. The mind, Kṛṣṇa, Arjuna said the mind is obstinate, turbulent, fickle, isn't it? So it may be difficult, but it's not impossible. If it was impossible, Kṛṣṇa would not have told us. Kṛṣṇa has not given any instruction that is impossible to attain. The Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam do not present theoretical knowledge. Sometimes some of us feel, that's utopian, it's too theoretical, it's not going to be practical in this age, we're too far gone. So, the scriptures do represent what is called eternal wisdom, Sanatana Dharma. And it is certainly attainable if we also take the proper means. So, attentive chanting hearing helps us to remember the Lord. So Rupa Goswami says, all these rules and regulations that I've given, the purpose of all these rules and regulations is to bring us to the point that we always remember Kṛṣṇa and never forget Kṛṣṇa. Just like any businessman when he starts his business. What is his real goal? To always make a profit and never make a loss. Am I right? No businessman starts business with the intention, oh, I want to make a loss. I mean, he may show it on record, he's made a loss, so escape paying income tax. But anyway, in reality, nobody wants to get a loss. Am I right? Oh, only you're a businessman. So, his goal is to always make a profit and never go at a loss, isn't it? So that should be our goal. To always make a spiritual profit and never go at a spiritual loss. So if you're always remembering Krishna, that means you're making a spiritual profit. And if you're not remembering Krishna, then your enterprise is going at a loss. So we should so plan that our enterprise runs at a profit. Now, how do you remember Krishna? That's a challenge, but not impossible. Where the great sages have also given us many wonderful guidelines. And in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita called Attaining the Supreme, Krishna also gives us various guidelines and we can always remember him. In fact, there's an organization these days called the Art of Living. But Krishna teaches us the art of living and the art of dying. You should know both, isn't it? So Krishna explains the art of dying. He says, Yam yam vapi swaran bhavam. Where your mind is in the moment of death, that's the type of body you'll get. And the laws of nature are such that in the moment of death, your mind will gravitate towards activities that you have engaged in during a lifetime. Prabhupada said that if, for example, at the moment of death you're thinking, oh, I built a big house in Toronto, but I only lived here for 30 years. Well, a huge investment I made. I should at least have lived for 50 years. If you're just thinking like that and you die, then in the next life you'll come back in that house. See, Krishna is so kind. But not as the owner of the house. You may come back as one of the insects in the house. Where instead of sitting on sleeping on the bed, you have to sleep below the bed. The insect in the house is always worried somebody may step on my head. So he's always trying to run. So the laws of nature are very severe. We tend to minimize the laws of nature and ignore them often. The laws of God are very strict. So Krishna explains this in the chapter, wherever your mind is in the moment of death, that's the type of body one gets. And Krishna says, think of me as one of the smallest, think of me as one who is inconceivable, think of me as one who is more luminous than the sun. And then the sages have also said, remember Krishna's Leela, Rupa, Guna, Nama. You remember Krishna's holy name, how powerful the holy name is, how the holy name is not different from the Lord, how the Lord incarnates in the holy name. Then remember his various Leelas. There's so many wonderful pastimes of the Lord. You read the Krishna book, the summary presentation of the 10th canto. Prabhupada translated the Krishna book ahead of the other cantos, right after the 2nd canto. Am I right? He proceeded to the Krishna book because Prabhupada wanted the members of ISKCON to get a bona fide presentation of Krishna's pastimes. Because many people have a tendency to misrepresent his pastimes. So read the Krishna book. There's so many wonderful leelas over there. Then you can meditate on Krishna's instructions from Bhagavad Gita. Just like in the Bhagavatam 1st canto you read that when the Lord had departed from the world, Arjuna was feeling very sad. When Arjuna discovered the Lord had departed, so Arjuna began to meditate on those pastimes in which he was saved by the Lord. Those were inconceivable situations, but Arjuna survived and was victorious because he had Krishna's mercy. But then Arjuna began to meditate on Krishna's instructions from Bhagavad Gita. And when he began to meditate on Krishna's instructions from Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna felt as if Krishna was right there. Krishna was next to him. And his sadness disappeared. And once again Arjuna felt joyful. So Prabhupada says in the purport of the story that just like Arjuna was meditating on Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, the devotees of this Krishna conscious movement should also meditate on Krishna's instructions from the Bhagavad Gita. So that's another way of positively engaging your mind. The mind needs some engagement, positive or negative. So if you don't have positive engagement, the mind is going to gravitate towards negative engagement. But we have to engage the mind, am I right? So remember the Bhagavad Gita instructions that you can meditate on the wonderful form of the Lord. Here in Toronto you have very beautiful deities. Śrīla, 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜𝐿, Gaurita, Jagannath, Subhadra, Balaram. You have 2 sets of Radha Krishna, 3 sets of Gaurita. Did you know you have 3 sets of Gaurita? 1 big and 2 small. You have 2 sets of Jagannath deities. You have duplicates and triplicates of everything. So, yeah, big Jagannath, small Jagannath, big Radha Krishna, tiny Radha Krishna, big Gaurita, 2 small. So meditate on these deities. Meditate on the dresses the deities are wearing. What dress is it today? Don't look in that direction. What color was it today? Radha Krishna's dress. So if you want to tax your brain, every day when you come, of course most of you come on Sundays, but anyway, so whenever you come, meditate. Today I saw the deity was wearing purple dress. Last Sunday I came, they were wearing yellow dress. The Sunday before they were wearing, every Sunday put on a nice new dress. So meditate on the dresses the deities are wearing. You know, that is one way of engaging the mind. You have to think of ways how you can keep the mind busy all the time. And then of course there's Prahlad Maharaj's way of meditating how the conditioned souls can be saved. In some temples in America like San Jose, and the Grihastha devotees go on Harinam. And the Grihastha devotees go on weekends and take these smart book stands and they put it in shops. I know many devotees who do it. So that's, y'all can think, how can we save the conditioned souls? In one way is book distribution. So you can't go out full time because you all have jobs and businesses, but you can take these stands and put them in different stores, you know, Indian stores, American stores, Canadian stores, and so on. So the point is, the various ways how you can engage the mind positively. That's the point. And as they say, God helps those who help themselves. So if we endeavor, then Krishna will help. So it is being said that we should remember and then worship the personality of Godhead. You should worship the Lord. Worship the Lord on the altar. Devotees come and worship the Lord by chanting and dancing for His pleasure. When you come and bow down before the Lord, you're also worshipping the Lord. Just like the Rath Yatra is coming, there are going to be so many services we can engage, and we serve the Lord, worship the Lord through these services. Then you can even have your deities. Most of you have deities at home, so you worship those deities. But home deity worship should not be so elaborate that you can't concentrate on the temple. The temple should be your main focal point, the temple deities. And you can worship deities at home, but it should not be so elaborate and time-consuming that you have no time to come to the temple for temple programs. You follow? So the Lord is so kind, He allows us to worship Him through various ways. So worship the Lord by dressing Him, by singing for Him, by dancing for Him, by clapping for Him, by cooking for Him, making garlands for Him, bringing offerings to the Lord, financing these various gifts to the Lord. So these are various ways how we can worship the Supreme Lord. And by doing this, we purify ourselves. And further in this verse, Sutta Goswami says, the Lord is the protector of His devotees. Krishna is also known as Bhakta Vatsala. He is the protector of His devotees. So Krishna protects us. There's so many examples to show how Krishna protects His devotees, how Krishna protected Arjuna in the battle of Kurukshetra, how Krishna came to Draupadi's rescue when she was in anxiety, how she received the Vasa Muni, how Krishna protected Prahlad Maharaj, Haridas Thakur. So Krishna is a protector of his devotees. Many times devotees say, well, how do I get to know, how do I gain confidence that Krishna is my protector? So you will gain confidence that Krishna is a protector and you surrender to Krishna. If you keep yourself at a distance from Krishna, then you're not going to be able to understand Krishna's unlimited potencies. So Krishna protects his devotees, but that doesn't mean that a devotee is never inconvenienced. But what it means is that even if you are inconvenienced, you have faith that my Lord is so kind that is minimizing my suffering. It's not that if you take the Krishna consciousness, there'll never be any suffering, there'll never be any material inconvenience. Sure, we're all living the material world, so these inconveniences and miseries are going to strike everyone, devotee or non-devotee. But the devotee has knowledge that Krishna, even if I am going through a hard time, Krishna is so kind, is minimized in 1,000-fold. And if I am getting some success, it is due to the causeless mercy of the Lord. So Krishna is the protector of his devotees, and our faith in Krishna's protection increases as we surrender. So in this verse, there are many important points. It'd be nice if the devotees try to memorize this verse, write it on a board, and write that Sanskrit and the translation. And even if you can't remember the Sanskrit, at least remember the main points that Sutta Goswami is emphasizing. So to summarize, what are the main points that Sutta Goswami is emphasizing in this verse? What's the first point he says? First point he says, therefore, with one pointed attention, isn't it? So he's saying, main attention should be. Then what did he say? What should we do with one pointed attention? Here. Then what? Glorify. Then what's the third point? Remember. Then fourth. And then what did he say? Nityada. Constantly. And what did he describe Krishna? What is Krishna? The protector of his devotee. So how do we gain confidence that Krishna is my protector? As you surrender, you experience that. Very important point, isn't it? This verse contains all the elements to go back to Godhead. If you just meditate on this one verse and follow this verse, then your spiritual success is guaranteed. Everything's there right in this one verse. Isn't it? Hare Krishna.